All right, so today we're going to be taking a deep dive into horror video games.
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
I love horror games.
I too.
I'm excited about this.
Yeah, and specifically we're going to be like exploring the psychology behind like what makes them so scary.
Yeah, like what makes us tick when we're playing them?
And we're going to be pulling from this this podcast script we found about horror game design.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and it's like really interesting how much thought goes into like actually trying to scare people.
Yeah, it's like they have it down to a science,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
Like how to really get under our skin.
Well, and you think about it, like everyone's felt fear, right? Like it's a
Yeah.
universal human experience.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But then it's like, why do we actively seek it out in games?
That's so true.
Yeah.
Why do we like being
It's
scared?
just the controlled experiment with our own emotions almost.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of a unique thing about video games, right? Like with movies or books, you're kind of passively consuming the fear.
Right.
You're just watching it unfold.
Yeah.
But with video games, you are like immersed in it.
Yeah. You're the one
You're
who
in
is
control.
making the decisions.
Right.
Yeah.
Which makes it all the more real, I think.
Yeah, it's like you're actually there. Exactly. Like I was playing Outlast the other day.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God.
That game.
And I was like hiding in this locker and my heart is like pounding.
Oh, bet.
Like I was like actually there.
I know that feeling.
And I was like, I had to choose between like hiding in the locker or trying to run.
Oh, man.
And I was like, I don't know what to do.
It's like a real decision.
Right.
You're not just watching it happening.
So those decisions feel so much more real.
They do. And I think that interactivity really is
Yeah.
a big part of
Yeah.
what makes it so effective.
Okay, so let's like dive into like some of these elements that actually like build the fear. And one of the first things the script talks about is isolation.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Isolation is huge.
Like just being alone makes you feel so vulnerable.
It does. And it kind of amplifies like any other kind of fear you're feeling.
Yeah, because you're like helpless almost.
Exactly.
Like, there's no one to help you.
Like think about a game like Alien. Isolation.
Oh my gosh.
You're trapped on this spaceship
Yeah.
with this alien stalking you.
You have no one.
Yeah.
It's so scary.
And like every little sound
Yeah, you're like
could be a threat.
Yeah, it could be the alien.
Yeah, exactly. It's
Oh.
terrifying.
I'm getting chills just thinking about it.
I know, me too.
It's like that feeling of like walking home alone at night,
Right.
but like 10 times worse because it's like a real threat.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
It's not just your imagination. There's
Right.
actually something out there.
Yeah.
And it's not just like sci-fi settings either.
Right.
I think about Resident Evil 7.
Oh.
Like that creepy old house.
In the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
You're all alone.
I'm already getting goosebumps just thinking about it.
I know, it's creepy, right?
Yeah.
It's that eerie silence
Yeah.
that really gets to you.
Because you're like waiting for something to happen.
Yeah, and your brain's just like trying to fill in the gaps.
Yeah.
And usually it's filling it with the worst possible scenarios.
Totally.
It's like, oh no, what's going to happen next?
Right.
And that brings us to another element, the fear of the unknown.
Oh, yeah.
That is huge in horror games.
That's like the worst.
It
It's like you
is.
don't know what to expect.
You don't know what's coming next.
Right. And so you're just like constantly on edge,
Right.
like in Squirrel Stapler.
Oh, yeah.
That game.
I love that game.
It's so creepy.
It's so creepy.
And it's like God is arriving in 5 days.
Right. And you have no idea what that means.
Yeah, you have no idea what's going to happen.
You don't know if it's good or bad.
Right.
You just know something's coming.
Yeah, and that's enough to like freak you out.
Yeah, it's enough to like keep you on edge the entire time you're playing.
Right.
That countdown mechanic is so clever
Yeah.
because it plays on our natural aversion to uncertainty.
Oh, totally.
Like our brains are wired to predict and control our environment.
Right. We like to know what's happening.
We like to know what's coming next.
Right.
When we're faced with the unknown,
Yeah.
it triggers a stress response.
Like our brain's like, oh no, this is bad. We don't like this.
I don't know what to do.
Right.
And game designers know that.
Right. And they use it to their advantage.
They exploit it.
It's like they're manipulating us.
Totally they are.
Yeah.
They're like pushing our buttons to make us feel uneasy.
Yeah. It's like they're hacking our brains almost.
They are.
Yeah.
They're brain hackers.
Okay, so we've talked about isolation, fear of the unknown.
Mm-hmm.
What about the uncanny valley?
Oh, the uncanny valley.
Yeah, that always creeps me out.
So creepy, right?
It's so unsettling.
That feeling when something looks almost human,
Right.
but just slightly off.
Yeah, it's like something's not quite right.
Like our brains are constantly trying to make sense of the world.
Right. Yeah.
And when we encounter something that breaks the rules of what we expect,
Right, like it doesn't fit.
it triggers this primal unease.
Yeah. something's wrong.
Yeah, like warning bells go off in your
Yeah,
brain.
it's like danger.
It's like danger.
Yeah.
Something's not right here.
And like games like Little Nightmares and Resident Evil 7,
Oh, yeah, they're so good at that.
they do this so well.
Yeah, they take things that are familiar,
Yeah, like children.
like children everyday objects,
Right.
and they just twist them just enough,
Yeah, it's like just slightly off.
just slightly off to make them deeply disturbing.
Yeah, it's like a,
It's like seeing a doll move on its own.
yeah.
It's just wrong.
Oh, I hate that.
It's not supposed to do that.
Right?
And it just sets off these alarm bells in your brain.
Yeah, because it like violates our understanding of how the world's supposed to work.
Exactly.
Right?
And it's amazing how those subtle manipulations
Yeah.
can trigger such a powerful response.
It's like those games are like hacking our brains,
Yeah.
making us feel creeped out,
Totally.
and we don't even know why.
It's like subconscious manipulation.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got isolation fear of the unknown, the uncanny valley.
Mhm.
What other tricks do these horror game designers have up their sleeves?
Well, let's talk about character design.
Okay.
It's not just about making monsters look scary.
Right.
It's about evoking specific feelings in the player.
So it's not just about like how many teeth a monster has.
Right.
Or like,
It's not just about the gore.
right? It's like how it makes you feel.
Yeah, it's about the feeling you get when you see that monster.
Right.
Think about like the creatures in Silent Hill.
Oh, yeah.
They have these like grotesque proportions.
Yeah, yeah.
Their limbs are all like long and twisted.
It's so disturbing.
It's disturbing, right? And then in Dead Space, you have these figures that are almost skeletal.
Oh,
These unsettling,
it's like they're not even human anymore.
yeah, they're not quite human.
Right.
And these designs aren't arbitrary.
Right.
They're carefully crafted
Yeah, they're made to like,
to trigger those primal fear responses in our brains.
yeah, like something deep down inside is like,
Yeah, like your deepest instinct.
it's like, this is bad, stay away.
It's like danger run.
Yeah.
Stay away.
And sound design. Oh, sound is huge.
It plays a huge role
Sound is so important.
in like amplifying those feelings.
Yeah, think about the whispers you hear in Silent Hill 2.
Oh, yeah.
They're so unsettling.
It's so creepy.
They're like just outer range of hearing. You
Oh my
can't
God.
quite make out what they're saying.
yeah, you're like, what was that?
It's like, what is that?
Right.
And then you have games like No Players Online,
Oh, yeah.
where it's almost completely silent.
It's like eerie silence.
It's airy. It's like you're waiting for something to happen.
And that can be even more terrifying.
Than like loud noises.
Yeah. Sometimes the absence of sound
Yeah.
is scarier than any noise.
Right, because it's like you're anticipating something.
It's like something's coming.
Right.
It's building that anticipation.
Yeah.
And those soundscapes
Yeah.
are like meticulously designed.
They think about it so much.
They think about it so much to like
Yeah.
create that unease and
Yeah.
tension.
So they really are like hacking our brains.
They are brain hackers for sure.
And speaking of hacking our brains, what about jump scares?
Oh, jump scares.
Yeah, like they're classic.
They're classic, but you mentioned earlier that they need to be earned.
They do.
What does that mean?
Like a truly effective jump scare
Yeah.
isn't just a random shock.
Okay.
It's the culmination
Right.
of all this tension that's been building.
Right.
And it's the release valve
Okay.
for all that pent-up anxiety.
So like you need to prime the player,
You got to prime them.
right? Like get them scared.
Get them on edge.
and then hit them with the jump scare.
Right, and then it's like,
Yeah.
like all that built-up fear.
It all comes out at once.
Right.
Yeah.
A great example is Dead Space.
Oh yeah. Dead Space is so good.
It's so good at that. It uses the sound cues, the level design, like
Yeah.
everything leads you into it.
And it makes it so much more intense.
Yeah, because it's like you're already scared.
Yeah, you're already on edge.
Right, and then
Boom, boom.
bum share.
It gets you.
Okay, so it's not just about the scare itself.
No.
It's about the context.
That's about the context, the
Yeah,
buildup,
right.
the anticipation.
Okay, so we've talked about how these games manipulate our senses, tack into our deepest fears.
Mm-hmm.
But why do we do this to ourselves?
That's a good question.
Like, why do we put ourselves through this?
Why do we like to be scared?
Yeah, what's the appeal of being snared out of our wits?
Well, there are a few theories.
Oh.
Some psychologists believe
Yeah.
that experiencing fear in a safe environment,
Okay.
like a video game,
Can actually be cathartic.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it allows us to process
Okay.
and confront our anxieties
Okay.
in a controlled setting.
So it's like exposure therapy,
Yeah.
but like with zombies.
Yeah, exactly, but with zombies and monsters.
I like that idea.
Yeah, it's like facing your fears,
Yeah.
but, you know, you're safe.
Right. You know nothing bad's actually going to happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And there's also the thrill of the unknown.
Yeah.
Like, as humans,
We like mysteries.
we're curious.
Right.
We're drawn to mystery and suspense.
Yeah.
And horror games give us a safe space to explore those feelings
Right. Because, like,
without actually putting ourselves in danger.
it's not real life.
It's not real life.
Yeah.
It's just a game.
It's like that feeling of watching a scary movie through your fingers.
Oh, yeah.
You know you're safe,
You know you're safe,
but you can't help but peek.
but you got to see what's happening.
Right.
You got to see what's coming.
Yeah. And then there's also, like, the sense of accomplishment
Oh, yeah.
that comes with, like,
Like when you beat a horror game.
yeah, like you finished it.
You finished it.
You survived.
Especially a really challenging one.
Oh my God.
It's like a real triumph.
It's like, I did it.
You faced your demons and you emerged victorious.
It's like a badge of honor.
It is for gamers.
It's like bragging rights.
Yeah, I beat that game.
I survived.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got catharsis, thrill of the unknown,
Mm-hmm.
sense of accomplishment.
Yeah.
But is there like a deeper psychological reason why we like horror?
Well, some researchers believe
Yeah.
that horror allows us to tap into our primal instincts.
Ooh, okay.
Like, for most of human history,
Yeah.
fear was essential for survival.
Right, it kept us safe.
It kept us safe.
Predators.
It kept us alert to danger.
Right.
It helped us avoid threats.
So it's like our ancient ancestors were constantly on edge.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They had to be.
Looking out for like saber-toothed tigers and stuff. And like that instinct is still wired into our brains,
It's still there.
even though we don't face the same threats today.
Right.
Ugh.
We don't have to worry about saber-toothed tigers so much anymore.
Right, unless you go to the zoo.
Unless you go to the zoo.
Yeah.
But that instinct is still there.
So horror games kind of give us a way to like safely experience that
Yeah.
primal fear response.
It's like a workout
Okay.
for our survival instincts.
I like that idea.
Yeah, it's like we're not actually running from zombies
Right.
or hiding from monsters.
But our brain is reacting like we are.
But our brains are like, oh no,
Yeah.
this is real. This is happening.
Oh, that's wide.
It's amazing, right?
Yeah,
It's a testament to the power of storytelling
totally.
and how deeply it can affect us
Yeah.
on a primal level.
Even though we know it's not real.
We know it's not real.
Our brains are like,
Our brains are like, no, this is happening.
yeah.
We got to run. We got to hide.
It's like that saying, we are all just one bad day away from being the monster.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
And horror games kind of allow us to explore that.
Yeah, that dark side of ourselves.
Right.
What would we do if
Yeah.
we were in that situation?
Right. And it's like,
It's fascinating.
yeah,
It's unsettling, but it's also fascinating.
it's like holding up a mirror
Yeah.
to our deepest fears and anxieties.
It's like, this is what you're really afraid of.
Right. And it's like, no wonder these games are so unsettling.
Well,
It's because they're tapping into something very real.
Yeah, something deep down inside us
Yeah.
that we don't always want to admit.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about like the psychology,
Mm-hmm.
but now I want to like shift gears a little bit and talk about how those fears are like translated into the gameplay.
Yeah, how do they actually,
Yeah, like what tricks do developers use to like actually scare us?
to keep us on edge?
Yeah, and keep us on edge.
Okay.
So I guess one thing that comes to mind is countdowns.
Oh, yeah, countdowns.
Yeah.
The ticking clock. That's more than just a game mechanic.
Right.
So it's like a psychological weapon designed to trigger our fear of impending doom.
So like those scenarios where you have to escape a room
Yes.
before something bad happens.
Or solve a puzzle.
Yeah.
Or like
well,
before the timer runs out.
right. Or the monster gets you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It taps into our primal instincts.
Right. Like we need to act now.
We need to act now.
Or we're going to die.
We're going to die.
Yeah.
It's like that urgency.
The fight or flight.
The fight or flight kicks in.
Yeah.
But instead of a saber-toothed tiger,
It's a zombie horde.
it's a zombie horde or like a creepy ghost.
Yeah. And our brains still react the same way.
They do. Even though we know it's just a game.
Right. It's like that primal fear is still there.
That instinct is still there.
Yeah. And it's even more effective when it's combined with like the darkness.
Yeah. The limited resources,
Right.
the constant threat of being hunted.
It's like the walls are closing in.
It's like overwhelming dread.
Okay, that's terrible.
It's
Yeah.
effective, though.
Okay, but what about something a little bit more subtle,
Okay.
like psychological horror?
Oh, psychological horror.
Yeah, those games really mess with your head.
They do. They're all
Yeah.
about creating that unease,
Right.
that paranoia.
It's not about jump scares.
It's not about the jump scares.
Yeah.
It's not about the gore.
It's about like messing with your perception of reality.
It's about subtly manipulating the player.
So it's like gaslighting.
Yeah, it's like gaslighting.
Yeah, the game is trying to make you question what's real, what's
Yeah,
not.
what's in your head?
Yeah, and it's like
What's actually happening?
those moments where you're like, did I actually see that, or
Yeah.
was that just my imagination?
Or was it the game messing with you?
Right. And that doubt is like,
That doubt can be so effective.
yeah, because you're like,
Because it lingers.
you don't know.
It stays with you.
Yeah, games like The Salvation Project.
Oh, yeah. Salvation
With
Fight.
these masters at that.
They're so good at that.
They blur the lines between what's happening in the game.
Yeah, what's happening in your own mind.
Right.
It's like, is this real? Am I going crazy?
Yeah, and that feeling lasts.
It lingers.
Like, even after you finish playing.
It does. It stays with you.
The Salvation Project definitely got under my skin.
I know, me too.
I was like questioning everything I saw and heard.
Right.
It's like those games implant these seeds of doubt.
They do.
That just like,
They mess with your head.
yeah.
They get in there.
Yeah. And that's the beauty of psychological horror, right?
It is. It's a slow burn.
Yeah.
It creeps up on you.
It's not a sudden shock.
No, it's not a jump scare.
Yeah.
It's like this atmosphere of dread
Right.
and unease that permeates the entire experience.
It's like a psychological thriller,
Yeah,
but in video game form.
exactly.
Okay, before we get too deep into the darkness,
Okay.
let's lighten things up a bit.
Okay.
What about those classic jump scares?
Oh, jump scares.
Yeah, love them or hate them.
Right.
They're a staple of the genre.
They're a classic.
But we talked about they need to be earned.
They do. They got to be earned.
So how do developers use them effectively?
Well, it's all about subverting expectations
Okay.
and manipulating the player's senses.
Okay.
It's not just about making a loud noise.
Right.
Or having a monster pop out of nowhere.
It's about like building the tension.
It's about the build-up, the anticipation.
So you create an atmosphere where the player's already on edge.
Yeah, they're already expecting something.
Right.
And then you hit them with a scare
At the right moment.
at the right moment.
Right.
It's like a magician
Oh, okay.
performing a magic trick.
Okay.
They use misdirection,
Okay.
sleight of hand, to distract you
Right.
while they're setting the illusion.
Yeah.
Horror game developers do the same thing.
They're like setting a trap.
They're setting a trap,
Yeah.
leading you down a certain path,
Yeah.
and then boom, jump scare.
So it's like a perfectly timed punchline.
It is. In a joke.
It needs the setup
Right.
and the delivery.
To have the desired effect.
Okay, so we've talked about jump scares, but what about interactivity?
Oh, interactivity is so important.
Because that's what sets video games apart from other types of horror.
It gives players agency.
Right, like you're not just watching.
You're not just watching.
You're participating.
They're making the choices.
Right, and those choices can feel like life or death.
They do,
Yeah.
especially in a horror game.
Right, like in Outlast,
Oh, yeah, Outlast.
where you have to choose between hiding or running.
Yeah,
Each decision feels so much more important.
it does, because you know it could have real consequences.
Right.
It's like dire consequences.
And those consequences are even more impactful.
Right.
Because you're the one experiencing them.
Yeah, it's not just a character on screen dying.
Right.
It's you.
Yeah, and that vulnerability
It's you failing to survive.
really amplifies the fear.
It really does.
Yeah, it's like the game is holding up a mirror
Yeah,
to our own mortality.
to our own vulnerability.
Right.
Like, we're not invincible.
Yeah.
And our choices
All consequences.
have consequences.
Yeah, and in a horror game, those consequences can be pretty scary.
Yeah, they can be deadly.
So it's like the game is breaking down that fourth wall
Yeah, blurring the line
between reality.
between what's real and what's not.
And when you're dealing with fear,
Yeah.
that's a really powerful experience.
It is. It can be really unsettling.
But how do developers make sure that interactivity isn't like too overwhelming
Right.
or frustrating for the player?
Yeah, you don't want to make it a chore.
Right.
You want to keep it fun.
Yeah, because then it's not scary anymore.
Exactly.
Right.
It's got to be that balance.
So what's the balance?
I think it's about giving players agency,
Okay.
but also providing enough guidance.
Right.
So they feel like they're making meaningful choices.
So it can't be too hard
It can't be too hard
or too easy.
or too easy.
Right.
It's got to be that sweet spot.
So they feel like they're in control.
Yeah, they feel like their choices matter.
But also like failure is a possibility.
Right.
Yeah.
You got to have that threat
Yeah.
of failure
But
to make it really engaging.
it's like a tightrope walk
It is.
between fear and fun.
Exactly.
Okay, speaking of like brushing boundaries,
Okay.
what about technology?
Technology's changing everything.
In the evolution of horror games,
Yeah.
like we touched on VR earlier,
VR is huge.
but where else do you see things going?
Well, I think VR is just the beginning.
Okay.
I think we're going to see even more blurring of the lines
Between games and reality.
between games and reality.
Yeah.
Like with advancements in AI, for instance,
Okay.
games could become more personalized
Oh.
and
So
responsive
like the individual player.
to your individual fears.
Whoa. Okay, so like the game would know what scares me
Yeah, imagine a horror game
and like tailor the experience.
that learns what scares you.
That's both amazing and terrifying.
It is.
Yeah.
It's like mind reading.
Yeah, it's like the game is reading your mind. Yeah, and then it knows exactly how to scare you.
Exactly.
Oh, that's creepy.
It's a little creepy,
Yeah.
but it's also really cool.
Okay, so not just AI, what else?
Well, there's biofeedback technology,
Yeah. Okay.
which measures things like heart rate,
Oh, okay.
sweat response.
So the game could know how scared I am.
Yeah, and it could adjust the difficulty
Oh, wow.
or even the storyline
Based on my fear.
based on how scared you are.
That's insane. It is.
It's like the game is alive.
It's like the game is a living, breathing entity.
Yeah, that feeds off your
It
food.
is off your fear.
That's a little creepy.
It's a little creepy, but it's also really exciting.
Okay, so I mean, the future of horror games is really only limited by our imagination.
Yeah, and maybe our tolerance for fear.
Right.
Like, how much can we handle?
Yeah, before we like tap out.
Before we're like, nope, I'm out. I can't take it anymore.
Yeah. Okay. But before we get too deep into the darkness, like,
Okay.
I'm curious about your personal take on horror.
Oh, yeah. What are some of the elements that really get under your skin?
For me, it's the psychological stuff.
Oh, yeah.
The slow burn,
Yeah.
the creeping dread,
Yeah.
that feeling that something is deeply wrong,
Yeah.
but you can't quite put your finger on it.
It's like that unsettling feeling that like lingers after the game's over.
Yeah, it stays with you.
Yeah.
It seeps into your subconscious.
Okay, I'm officially creeped out now.
Sorry.
But seriously, it's been fascinating, like, exploring this anatomy of horror in video games with you.
It has been fun.
We've covered everything from jump scares to VR,
Yeah.
and it's clear that this genre has, like, a lot to offer,
It does.
both in terms of entertainment
Yeah.
and psychological exploration.
Totally.
It's been a pleasure.
Likewise, and for all you listeners out there,
Yeah.
if you're feeling brave, I encourage you to delve into the world of horror games.
Yeah.
You might just discover a new appreciation
For the thrill of being scared.
for the thrill of being scared. Exactly.
And you know what? It's not just about, like, the cheap thrills, right?
Right.
It's like, it's a window into our deepest fears.
Or anxieties.
Yeah, it shows us, like, what we're truly afraid of.
Even if we don't want to admit it.
Yeah, even if we don't want to admit it to ourselves.
And, I think horror as a genre often reflects like the anxieties of the time period.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's created in like zombie outbreaks, for instance.
Okay.
They became a huge theme in the 2000s,
Yeah.
maybe reflecting this like societal fear of pandemics.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So it's like those fears were already bubbling under the surface.
Yeah.
And horror games just gave them a form.
To give them a face.
Tangible form.
Yeah.
Oh.
Way to express them.
So horror acts as like a cultural barometer,
Yeah, I think so.
exposing our anxieties in a safe way.
In a safe and cathartic way.
Right. Because we're not actually in danger.
We can explore those fears
Yeah.
without actually putting ourselves at risk.
So it's like those fears are already in our mind.
Mm-hmm.
And horror games just give them a stage to play out on.
Exactly. They give them a platform.
But instead of being paralyzed by fear,
Right.
we get to be active participants.
We get to fight back.
Right, we get to fight back, overcome challenges, and conquer them.
We get to be the heroes of our own horror stories.
Yeah, and that sense of agency can be really empowering.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It allows us to tap into our primal instincts.
Yeah, test our limits.
And come out feeling a little bit braver.
It's like a psychological workout.
It is.
Okay, but speaking of pushing boundaries,
Okay.
where do you see horror games going in the future?
Well, VR is obviously a big one.
Yeah.
But I think we're going to see even more blurring of the lines between games and reality.
Oh, okay, so like beyond VR?
Beyond VR, well,
okay.
with advancements in AI,
Okay.
games could become even more personalized,
Oh, okay.
more responsive to our individual fears.
So like tailored to each player.
Imagine a horror game that learns what scares you specifically.
And tailors the experience accordingly.
That's a little creepy,
It is a little creepy.
but also really cool.
It's cool. It's innovative.
It's like the game would be reading my mind
It would be like the game is reading your mind.
and know exactly how to scare me.
Exactly.
Oh, that's next level creepy.
It's a little unsettling, but it's also exciting.
Okay, so not just AI.
Not just AI.
What else?
Well, there's biofeedback technology,
Okay.
which measures things like heart rate and sweat response.
So the game would know how scared I am
The game would know how scared you are.
and then adjust like the difficulty.
It could adjust the difficulty.
Or even the storyline.
or even the storyline based on your fear.
That's insane.
It is. It's pretty wild.
It's like the game is alive.
It's like the game is a living, breathing entity.
That feeds off your fear.
It feeds off your fear.
I don't know if I like that.
It's a little creepy.
Yeah. But it's definitely like the future of horror is...
I think the future of horror.
You're really only limited by like our imaginations.
Yeah. And our tolerance for fear.
Yeah, how much can we handle?
Exactly. How much can we take?
Okay, so it's like this constant game of cat and mouse
Yeah.
between developers and players.
Developers are trying to find new ways to scare us.
And we're trying to overcome those fears.
And players are trying to figure out how to beat the game.
Right, and it's like
How to survive.
that dynamic that keeps the genre fresh.
It does. It keeps it exciting.
Yeah.
It keeps us coming back for more.
Okay, well, that's a chilling thought to end on.
I know. A little bit creepy.
It's been an absolute pleasure, like, diving into the world of horror video games with you today.
Likewise, it's been a lot of fun.
I've learned so much about, like, the psychology of fear, the art of game design,
Mm-hmm.
and even a little bit about myself.
It's always good to learn about yourself,
Yeah.
even if it's a little scary.
Okay, so to all you deep divers out there,
Mm-hmm.
next time you fire up a horror game,
Yeah.
remember that it's more than just mindless entertainment.
It's a reflection of our shared humanity.
Yeah. A journey into the heart of darkness.
A chance to face our fears.
And emerge a little bit stronger.
And a little bit braver.
Yeah. Until next time, stay curious.
Stay safe.
And maybe keep a nightlight on.
Maybe sleep with the lights on tonight.
Yeah, good idea.